Hello and welcome to another episode of AgilityCast. My name is Alf Obohaile, and with me is my co-host, Rick Morris from R-Square Consulting. Hi, Rick.
Hey, how you doing?
We are in an interesting time. Project and portfolio management is actually cool now. Yeah, everybody's doing it, from startups and mom and pop shops to large corporations and military installations and government agencies. And much of this PPM renaissance, if you will, it comes from all these cool new solutions that are coming up, Slack and Asana and AHA, which are great little tools to get you started. And when everybody's excited about project management, you got to start somewhere. But while they offer great solutions for lightweight work, they don't have the engine to manage the actual work, and nor do they have the best practices to help you as you grow. Now, on the other hand, you have larger vendors, us included, who are more focused on strategic planning and advanced business intelligence and agile development. And that is not necessarily where the majority of companies are. Research has shown that over 50% consider themselves in the lower end of a maturity scale. And if you describe yourself as that, then the situation is probably worse. So one thing we wanted to do here at the AgilityCast is turn our attention to those who need us the most. We tend to forget about those users, trying to cobble together the basics, like the work, the people, and the money. And so we're going to bring up some real-life examples of how corporations and companies and organizations have overcome problems that are very common and come up with sort of life hacks or PPM hacks to make their own life better. And there's no one who's out there more frequently talking to customers than my good friend Rick, who were recently around the country and found interesting example both in project, resource, and financial management. So starting on the easier side in project management, Rick, share with us one of those anecdotes you told me the other day.
Absolutely. And really, this is the core of why we're in business. Also the core of why we feel as a partner that CAPPM is the best product on the market. And that's because every PMO is different. Every project is different. Everything that people are trying to track, their processes, all of that stuff, it's different from company to company, even though there's a unique framework. What I love about CAPPM is that we can adapt to the company versus the company having to change their processes and procedures to adapt to the tool. And that makes it, the configurability of CAPPM is what makes that there. So, for instance, we go into organizations, and we went into recently a major retail organization and looked at the way that they were doing their project charter and their and how they were presenting to their board. And what you find is people are cutting and pasting, right? There lots of cut and paste, lots of different reports that are in Excel and Word and that kind of stuff. And what we're able to do is analyze that and make sure that you're entering the information once. And then it goes to all 37 reports that you need. And the reason why that's so successful, especially from a project management perspective, is that we're spending very little time on all the reporting and most of our time in managing forward.
Yeah, it's sad actually when you see how we have failed in automating some of the basic manual tasks, allowing us to be, and I'm actually quoting, knowledge workers. A knowledge worker doesn't cut and paste. That's an assembly worker who does that. So it's interesting how we never got away from it. You look at resource managing people is always tricky. You can't just use algorithms and say, here are the 7 most effective workers. I need them in this project. It's a collaboration work, right? It's a lot of emotions involved, a lot of feelings that could get hurt. How do people overcome that?
The biggest way that we see that is what we call the 360-degree view of a resource. But the key thing first is just getting resource managers to sit down and allocate resources to investments. Now, what's so hard about a lot of the tools in the market is you've got to have project plans and you got to have all of this information in order to get there. What we've always loved about CAPPM is that we can step you into a maturity scale. So all we can, we just need a list of resources and a list of investments, and within a week we can tell you what everybody's doing. Now you can mature that and start to match that with time tracking and all the other stuff, but you don't have to start right. You can start anywhere you would like to start. And so perfect example is we've got another large retail organization right now that's undertaking a new product. And so they told us, we're bringing on 100 contractors. And our question was, how do you know you need 100? How do you know 50 is not enough? How do you know you don't need 150? How are we planning to resource that group? Well, everybody had all their spreadsheets and graphs and that kind of stuff. And the moment you finish a spreadsheet, it's out of date. So doing it in something like PPM, where everybody's collaborating and everybody has input, you can mature that information as you go.
I think that if you look at how project managers or the PMO in general manages large investments. So for example, in your example, 100 developers, maybe $200,000 fully loaded, let's say $150,000 fully loaded with health insurance and salaries, all this stuff. And you need 100, or you might need 200 or 50. We talk about tens of millions of dollars guesses, hunches, feelings, Imagine if Wall Street made deals based on hunches and feelings. And people say, well, they are. No, they're stopped from doing that. Do you know why? It will be considered insider trading to guess that widely. Still, we use the same amount of budget and we guess widely all the time. So it's interesting, the two different scenarios. One thing would be completely insane, and the other one is that's how we run our business, right?
And I'll step in for a second on that, Alf, because one of the biggest questions we try to change for our portfolio managers when you have a tool like CAPPM is, are you picking projects based on what you can spend, or are you picking projects based on what your resources can reasonably achieve or accomplish? And that is two totally different questions, right? Most of us go after it and say, we got 60 million to spend. Here's all the things we're going to do. But you don't have any idea whether or not you have the resourcing or enough resources to apply that. And that's where this Project Rub comes into play.
Yeah. And it all comes down to money, right? So financial management is a tricky thing. These guys are often left out completely in the early planning, in the mid-project changes, and at the end of it when you try to look at benefits. So life for a financial manager is pretty tough as it is. How can we help them?
The biggest part is integration, right? So a lot of your financial policies are going to drive the way you react. But when we just uncovered at another organization that they were spending up to 100 hours per PM per month in just looking up financial information, validating financial information, doing all that kind of stuff. So we literally found enough by an integration which cost $10,000 to do, was a $1.85 million savings per year in labor to the organization by connecting the two dots. And having a system that can read and write information, and even as simple as just taking the total spend out of your financial system and displaying that real time in your PPM. Something as simple as that can save, tons of decision time, tons of poor decision making. And again, the integration, because normally your PM is your gatekeeper for invoicing and understanding what you can charge. So there's that whole approval process that you can automate. But getting the two systems to talk together is the greatest part. So you want to make sure your system has an open environment. Can we talk to SAP? Can we talk to PeopleSoft? Can we talk to Microsoft Dynamics, right? Any of those types of tools you want to be able to integrate with.
Yeah, and that's probably true for all enterprise solutions. So we will continue this discussion about the basics of PPM and how we can help people, because I think there is more to be solved than we think. But we leave it there for now. And now it's time for Rick's Corner, where he talks about books, apps, and other fun things.
Absolutely, and thank you for that. And today I'm going to switch it up a little bit, because one of the biggest topics we like to talk about is how books and seminars don't work. And here's why they don't work, right? Here's one of my favorite books of all time, Think and Grow Rich, right? And if you look, almost 15 million copies of this book is sold. And in this book, it is a step-by-step guide of how to become a millionaire. But here's what happens. There's so many people who buy the book with the intent to read and never read it. There's some people who start and never finish. There's people who read it but never absorb it. And then there's the true knowledge capture of what a book is trying to do. Now, for me, with this exact book, I fell into every one of those categories. I bought it, put it on the shelf. Then I read it, but I didn't really get it, or some of the things I disagreed with, and I put it away. It wasn't until I was mentored through the book, through what we call a mastermind, that I really got it. So the flip side of that is seminars. You go to seminars, you take a bunch of notes, oh, Monday I'm going to do this, and then Monday your real job happens. Notes are on this side of the desk, and you never read it again. So to me, the biggest thing of our corner, what we're trying to do is make sure that you are building an environment of trusted people in which you can be mentored through this, and you guys can discuss it. Because through discussion is where you'll really catch on, especially hearing other people's ideas and interpretations of the book. So that's my corner for today.
I have only one question. If you read the book, understand the book, then why are you slumming it with me?
It's because I consider you a valued mastermind partner to mastermind the top PPM issues to uncover. But you're right. I may have to question my selection. Show me your friends, and I'll show you all about the person. And right now, I don't feel I'm in great company, so that's fine.
We're both slipping here. Well, talking about being a millionaire, my final thoughts is around the power of project management and in action. And I want to bring our attention to the most amazing times that's about to happen in a few days. World Cup soccer. Yes, football, but not with the hands. It is, without a doubt, the highlight of my life every 4 years. Just ask my family. But with it comes a lot of politics, a lot of business involved. To get a World Cup up and running many years ago in South Africa, where they did it with a fairly decent budget, $3.5 billion. And when they held it in Brazil 4 years, it rose almost 5 times to $15 billion. And that's the billions we knew about. But the most amazing thing is not what's going to happen in Russia in a few days, but what's going to happen in 4 years in Qatar. They don't spend 50, 60 billion. No. They're going to spend 226 billion US dollars on a World Cup. They are technically rebuilding an entire kingdom just in time for people to show up and kick a ball around. They're going to have outdoor arenas with air conditioning. I don't know how that works, but it sounds amazing. So they were running into delays. That is very common, but they had a great excuse for that delay. They hadn't started building anything on time until they completed one first task, and that is to educate every single one who was involved in the World Cup project on project management. To connect money, people, work in a way that is scientifical was a must if you're going to start to dish out this. And the first example of their success after doing this is that they built a brand new harbor, a seaport as they call it, and they were under time and under budget. And that's the first time ever the kingdom has succeeded in delivering any public project within 1 year of its initial deadline. So that's something to learn from, is that we all need to learn a little bit more about project management. That's it for us today. We'll see you next month. Take care.